Yo, it's been a while since I've done a video. It's not just because I didn't feel like making any videos. I actually had something pretty unfortunate happen to me in April, like the last week of April. So I was not able to do any video recording or even just play games in general because I had my home burned down, right? So everything I had, I lost. So yeah. And funny thing is, I remember I was working on a video about League of Legends because I think that's just what I wanted to talk about since it was a game that I have played for like over 10 years at this point. So, yeah, I was thinking about doing it again, but not right now. I kind of feel like talking about another game, which, as you will see by the title, obviously is The Witcher 3. So, how did I get introduced to this game? I think I actually had a buddy of mine. He's the one that told me about The Witcher 3 because he had played 1 and 2, if I remember correctly. So then he was like, hey, check out this trailer for The Witcher 3. So I started looking into it. And I'm like, okay, this looks interesting. Okay, cool. So I just kept up with it back in like 2015 when they kept releasing stuff about it. And yeah, basically since then, I was super interested in it. So when it came out, I finally bought it. So, first thing I want to talk about is the story slash writing for this game. It is fantastic, dude. That's all I can really say. Like, I will always say that the base game is always good. The Hearts of Stone story is like fantastic. Easily one of my favorite stories in like any video game, and it's just a smaller little condensed but very well written story. So it's great. And then Blood and Wine, it's bigger, but I still think it's it didn't lose its quality of storytelling at all. Like I still think it's very good. So I will say, story fantastic. The writing also of the game, like just the dialogue choices and stuff, is just very good. You can choose different options for dialogues, and it can change outcomes. You can basically intimidate people, and if you have the right skill chosen, it will actually work. If you don't, then yeah, you'll most likely fight people, stuff like that, or monsters. Sentient monsters specifically. But yeah, no, it's just like I like that you are actually given options that can change outcomes of events, especially even in the main story, because there are games that will say, oh yeah, your choices matter, but all it really comes down to is just like two or three choices that will actually affect the story. In this game, it's like there's a lot of side quests that are not part of the main story, but they have their own like story to it, and depending what you do in those side quests, that could also overall affect the ending of the story of the game. Like you get like a cutscene, basically it's describing what exactly happened in these different areas or these different characters and stuff. So I found that really cool. No other game has really done it that well to that extent. Just the story and the writing alone, I'll highly recommend the game to anyone. Now, the music, I'll keep it short and simple. It's very good. Base game, Hearts of Stone, Blood and Wine, all of it is very freaking good. Like, that's all I really need to say. I'll just say some of my favorite soundtracks are Temple of Levani, which is from Hearts of Stone, Eye of the Wolf, base game, Song of the Sword Dancer, base game, The Vagabond, base game, Forged in Fire, and then from there, Blood and Wine, the banks of the Sonsrator, I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm not sure. The Moon over Mount Gorgon and the Slopes of Blesher. All those are very good. They all have their own very distinct sound to them. I will say the base game music is definitely a little more on the kind of like, how would I say it? Kind of more on the darker, grittier side in a way. But I mean, it fits the world perfectly. I mean, it is The Witcher. It's a dark fantasy kind of game, right? So yeah, it's very good. Um, Other than that, for what the music is used in every moment and stuff, it fits it perfectly, and it is fantastic. It's a joy to listen to. I mean, the music is on Spotify. If you ever just one day want to listen to it on Spotify, and yeah, soundtrack is a certified banger. That's for sure. Now, the gameplay. I'll start off by saying it is fun but janky. You'll tell by the way that if you're trying to ride Roach, sometimes Roach, the horse, doesn't really go the way you want him to go. So you might just do some very dumb movements, or even sometimes controlling Geralt, he will not turn right away. Like if you're trying to, let's say you're going forward, you try to go back, turn backwards, he doesn't turn right away, which is fine. But yeah, there's been times where I've accidentally jumped off a cliff because Geralt just controlled kind of funky for whatever reason. So it's kind of janky, but then again, it's a game from 2016, right? The combat is pretty simple in my eyes. It really just comes down to having sidestep dodging, rolls, light attacks, and heavy attacks. The light attacks and heavy attacks, you can kind of weave those in however you want. Obviously, you just have to be careful with when you attack too, though, because your light attacks will have these extra little flourish to it, you do a little spin here and there, so yeah, you gotta be kind of smart when you attack too, It's not anything like Dark Souls or like, let's say like an action game like DMC, Bayonetta, It's kind of like a weird mixture in between, I would say, but still not very similar to any of those games. Now, the other cool thing that I will say is the extra skills and just kind of like passives you can add. Instead of having like the traditional RPG elements of, let's say, you get like +1, +2 to your attack or your whatever, like traditional RPGs and stuff. This one's more kind of like, in a way, DMC somewhat, where you can add extra move sets to you, right? You can add like an extra new attack to your move set, and then you just have like extra little crit here and there. I mean, that's not DMC, but still, there's just like little things like that just make it so you deal more damage, or you can tank more, or let's say something like with adrenaline points, the adrenaline system, where if you get hit and you have at least 1 point of adrenaline, you won't die. You'll get back some of your health. So there's like cool little things you can do with that. Like that's just for combat specifically with swordplay. You can do stuff in the potions, the concoctions, where you can increase your toxicity level so that if you drink too many potions, you won't just start dying, because that's what happens. You get your toxicity maxed out and you just start dying. It just gives you a lot of different cool effects and stuff, and I find that interesting and pretty unique in a way. And I think that in and of itself, that specific way it's set up, I think it's actually like a pretty good way to just like try out different builds, figure out what kind of build you like to do. And I mean you can make like the most broken builds ever, which I mean there's probably guides at this point for that, which I mean I haven't following one. I want to do a pretty crazy good build where it just mostly focuses on using swords and stuff. I don't want to do anything super broken, so yeah, there's a lot of options to do too, so it's really cool. I mean, you don't have to follow basically meta builds, you can say. You can just kind of do whatever you want, whatever fits you, whatever you want to do and stuff. So yeah, no, it's really cool. With the expansions too, they added a lot more stuff you can do to basically customize your build a lot more. So with Hearts of Stone, they added the rune words, if I remember that's what they're called, to your swords, which gives you extra added abilities or properties to your swords. I know there's one that actually increases the range of your whirl skill, and same with the rend skill. So That one's actually pretty broken. You might see that in my gameplay where I actually kind of use that a little bit. And yeah, you know, it just gives you a lot of extra customizability too. And then not only that, Blood and Wine adds even more, where you can add extra mutations that give you extra effects to whatever, let's say, skill you have. Like if you're using Ard, which is the push, you have a mutation where that can essentially freeze enemies around you. It has a high chance of freezing. So, you know, there's like extra stuff added. And then not only that, depending on the color of the mutation you choose, you can add even more skills. So for example, if you add a red mutation, that will actually give you the chance to add 4 more skill points of combat skills. Or if you do a green mutation, it gives you more for concoctions. Or is it called decoctions? I already forgot. You know, it gives you extra skill points for that tree. Or if you do an orange one, it gives you a mixture of what's it called, red and blue, which is the signs and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of cool customizability you can do. It's just when it comes to adding extra slots, you gotta unlock more mutations for that, or else you only have like a few extra slots, maybe like 1 extra one, until you unlock more mutations. But it's very cool still. So yeah, with all that said, I will say the gameplay is very fun and customizable, that, you know, you can do multiple playthroughs of the game and it can make the game still feel fresh. So yeah, I'm on my essentially 3rd playthrough of the game, and my builds have been just about the same. Just now I've been starting to look more into it about customizing more, and yeah, no, it's making me appreciate the game's combat and gameplay overall more now. Now, let's talk about the graphics. As you can see in the gameplay, I would say the game still looks very beautiful, especially for a game that was made back in 2016, right? I think it's still a game that holds up very, very well in graphics wise. You know, the art style is pretty unique. You know, it kind of goes in between being realistic and, you know, obviously fantasy. You know, it's not super realistic, but it's not also like that super fantasy kind of like light colors. I don't know how else I could explain it, but yeah, you know, I think it's very good looking overall. It aged perfectly. It's still a game that holds up very well. Not only that, the next gen update that came out, I think 2 years ago, basically just gave it that extra flourish that makes the game just look even better, even prettier. And yeah, you know, coming back to it again after last playing it, I want to say 2018. The game still blows my mind how beautiful it looks. You know, the lighting, all that stuff still looks fantastic. The ray tracing, I've tried a little bit of it just fairly recently, and you know, it's that nice little flourish that it adds to the game. It's not really necessary though. I think the game itself just looks fantastic. It doesn't need really ray tracing. And from what I've seen people say online, you know, it's not the best implementation of ray tracing, which I kind of understand, and I feel like, you know, it makes sense. This game wasn't developed with ray tracing in mind, you know, back in 2016, so yeah. But I mean, other than that, you know, I still think it makes the game look prettier, nicer. So yeah, still looks fantastic to this day. So with all I've said about The Witcher 3, I will definitely say it is my #1 most favorite game of all time. When I beat this game back in 2018, because the thing is, I played this game when it first came out around 2016, maybe 2017, on Xbox One, and you know, when I first played it, I was like, okay, it's alright, you know. I felt like I just kind of rushed through the game. I didn't really sit there, take my time with all the side quests and stuff. Just did the main story, finished it basically just to say I finished it, and then yeah, you know, after that, I dropped the game. I liked it. That's all I really thought about it. That was that. Eventually, I upgraded my PC at the time, because I think before I had like a 770 graphics card in my PC, and I ended up upgrading my graphics card to a 970 if I remember correctly. It's been years since I did this, so I don't remember exactly, but when I upgraded, I saw that The Witcher 3 was on like Steam summer sale or something for like $20. At that point, I was like, all right, I gotta buy it. I'm like, let's try this game out again. I've seen people talk a lot about it, say it's very good. Obviously the friend that introduced me to this franchise was also saying the same thing. So I was like, all right, you know what? I want to replay this game now with better graphics and obviously better performance, because the Xbox One version back in the day, that did not run very well, and due to it not running very well, it actually made the game feel even more jankier than the game already feels with good performance. So I was like, all right, let's try it again. Coming back to it, that second time actually made me fall in love with the game so much. I was going to college playing this game back in 2017, 2018. And I remember speaking to some of my classmates about it because I went to school for IT. A lot of us computer nerds there. And one of my teachers was like, yeah, no, talking about The Witcher 3. And so then I was like, you know what? I'll replay it again. And then, yeah, this time I replayed with all the DLC, and I fell in love with the game so much that like after beating it, I honestly had that feeling of like, like what do I do now? There's nothing that can compare to this game, that kind of feeling and stuff. So yeah, that's why it's one of my most favorite games of all time. It's a game that I highly recommend to anyone that is looking for a game to like get lost into for hours and hours every day, right? You can sit there, play this game for hours, and you will just find different things to do, so you won't get bored. And I always tell people, recommend it to people, my friends and stuff, to play this game. I know it's not for everyone though, but I always just give it a recommendation because that's how much I love this game. And there you have it. That's everything I think about The Witcher 3. I highly recommend it to anyone. If it's a game you can't get into, I completely understand. Perfectly fine. Not every game is made for everyone. So, yeah. If you like this video, give a like. Subscribe if you want to. You don't have to, obviously. And yeah. Next time, I think I will actually do my League of Legends video. And next time, when that is, I don't know. Pretty soon. So, yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.